Hello everybody, Dr. Hurd here again to talk to you about family rules. Now this one is an important lesson for everybody to do, and it's probably going to take a little bit of prep work this week with the family, and sometimes it'll take a week to kind of brainstorm what we should do, and then the next week is when you start to implement it. However, if you're really ambitious, you can do it all in 1 week. Basically, when you're putting together a family rules list, you want to put together rules in a way where everybody has input as to what those rules should be. And everybody agrees on what those rules should be. Now, kids will actually have a lot of good ideas on this because they know what the rules at school are, and they can kind of bring the rules from school and put them into place at home. And kids are a lot better at this than some of us think they are, meaning that sometimes they're really good at putting down really harsh rules and harsh consequences. So believe it or not, oftentimes in my office, I have to get them to back off on these harsh rules and back off on these harsh consequences because, you know, life at home should be relatively fun, and we should also, you know, if we make a mistake, it shouldn't be the be all and end all of the week. I mean, sometimes you make a mistake, you take a consequence and you move on, and it's not that big of a deal. But it's a really important one to work on. And number one, for developing the rules, everybody should brainstorm what the rules at home should be. And then the rules need to be framed positively. I would say keep it to only a few rules, maybe 4 or 5 rules max. And then the rules need to be written in a very positive way. So instead of saying no yelling at people, we say, rule 1, we want to talk to everybody nicely at home. And then we say what that means in a nice tone of voice, softly, in a nice way, so that everybody understands we mean not only no yelling, but no talking to everybody like this, look like we're very frustrated. So, and everybody can kind of get on board with that if we really think about it. So even though somebody will say, well, I wasn't yelling, well, you just heard my voice and it didn't sound very nice. So one of the rules is how we want to talk to each other at home. And I say in the chapter that I think it's really important that these rules apply to everybody. So it's going to take a little bit of work from all family members in order to get this done, even the parents, because when family rules and consequences are put together in such a way that they work, what should happen is we don't need to talk in that kind of a tone of voice, and we don't need to yell. And one of the benefits is that research shows when you start to yell, it makes us more angry. So even though it might work to help the kid calm down, we've had to do this yell in order to get this to happen, and it just doesn't feel as good. So this is, when you put these things into place, it seems like a little bit of work, but man, is it effective in getting things to turn around at home, because people kind of just know what the rules and the consequences are, and they know what they're going to get if we can live harmoniously. Probably some sort of reward, but also just the fact that life at home is just going so much better. So, you know, a lot of times families will say, well, everybody knows what the rules are. But once you ask the kids what the rules are and ask the parents what the rules are, oftentimes if they're not written down, it's just not the same. They don't really understand what the rules are. So once we write them down and have them very clear about how we want to talk to each other, rule number 2 is we want to listen to each other. We do have to follow directions. So kids do have to follow directions from mom and dad. Oftentimes I'll say, okay, you get 1 warning, but you're going to need to follow directions from mom and dad. Otherwise there's going to be a consequence. And you know, once you get those 3 rules, there's not a whole lot else that really needs to be on there, because that's basically how you conduct yourself at home in terms of talking to each other, being respectful of one another, and then listening to your parents. There are probably some other rules as kids get older in terms of individual expectations, you know, in terms of bedtime and keeping things tidy. But when you're starting off with a rules list, you basically want to stick with the basics and go with the first 3 or 4, 5 rules maximum, and then go from there. So once you have your rules kind of set, now you want to move to what the consequence will be. And we want the consequence to be significant enough that the kid cares what it is, but not so harsh that it's like the end of their world. So sometimes what'll happen is, actually the kids are they're pretty harsh on themselves. I'll ask them what they think the consequence should be if they slip up and yell at their dad. Whoa, I should have my video game taken from me for 3 weeks and I should be grounded. What? For one slip up of yelling at the dad? Holy cow, we're going to be grounded the whole year, you know? So it's interesting. The kids are actually their own harshest punisher when it comes to this stuff. So I didn't realize that before. I've done this for 10 years, but I really, when you ask the kids and the parents about punishment, oftentimes the kids punish themselves much harsher. So what we want is to get a consistent expectation of what the consequence would be if they break one of these rules. So some good consequences are, you know, you lose your video game for that night, or you lose dessert at night, or you lose your ability to go out with friends that night and play. So things that would be meaningful to them, but not such a large deal that, you know, the next day it's already forgotten. You know, it's already, you have a new day, you have a whole new set of things that you can hopefully earn if you follow the rules, and a whole lot of good things that are just coming up in your calendar, as long as you're just following rules at home and talking nicely. And with the one warning, it also gives them a chance to like straighten up. Oops, I think we forgot to talk nicely to dad. Oh, and then you give them a chance. Can they get it together? Okay, great. Now we don't need a consequence, right? And it's something that the more the kids can get it together and kind of act appropriately, that just fosters more appropriate actions. So once you get this going, it generally heads the right direction. Now, everybody has a bad day sometimes, and so I'll just say right here, right now, sometimes you have a bad day and everything's a wash. What I would say is kind of step away from it for just that day. It's okay to have a bad day, but you might need a longer reset. You might need to go and regroup and spend some alone time. If that's just a bad day, it's a bad day, and you can regroup and start again tomorrow. So no biggie. The last thing on the family rules is something for everybody to earn. If we're following the rules and talking nicely, gosh, I think it's a great opportunity for families to earn something, some good thing, like go play mini golf together, or go, you know, if there's a day when it's less expensive at like a local water park, I mean, go and have some fun and celebrate the fact that we've put together these rules and consequences and we've been able to talk nicer to each other, and then go enjoy our family and go enjoy some time together in something that we've all been really happy that we've been able to implement.